Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break.
A good story. So this tea mug here, Frank Ford's wife Joy made. She's a potter, and for our wedding, Michael Simmons at Griffin gave us a beautiful teapot with two of these mugs that Joy, I don't know whether she goes by Ford, but Frank Ford's wife Joy made this nice little set, and I use them every day.
Very well.
And I have for the last 21 years.
And with that wonderful opening, we'd like to welcome Teja Gerkin to Santa Cruz Guitar Players Podcast number 70. If you don't know who we're talking to probably the most connected man in the acoustic guitar world. The San Francisco Bay Area guitarist has enchanted audience ever since coming into the acoustic fingerstyle scene in the late 1990s. And enchanted is really a great word there, because just before we started recording, Tia said, "You got my CD, my new CD." And I said, "I have to be completely honest." A friend of my wife's walked in and saw it on the table and said, "Oh, I've heard of him." And I went, "You should have this." So we gave it away, and it is called Test of Time. It will be available today. We're gonna, there it is. It's gonna, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the one.
That's the one I was looking for yesterday.
Yep.
We're gonna post this on January 2nd, which is the release date for this, and
Yep.
I listened to all 10 of the cuts available on his website. It's just simply beautiful. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
And welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's always great. I think this is my second or third time talking with you guys in this context.
Second time,
Second,
yeah.
right, yes. I think the other time was in the midst of COVID, and nobody had seen each other in person for at least months.
Yes.
And as it's going right now, I have two really good friends that are really sick with it.
Oh yes, we do too. So yeah, I started masking up, going to the store again, actually.
Yeah, it's out there and it's back, so everybody take care.
Absolutely.
Well, we'd love to talk about this new record.
Well, let's do.
It's a beautiful thing. I see. Is that an Edwina?
Yes, that is an Edwina. This is actually our Peghead Nation Edwina that we usually use for lessons. But since we're between studios, I have some of the gear here at my house, and it's a great mic. I used this. I didn't use it to record most of the album, but I did reuse it. The one cut that has the National on it, I used this in addition to my Neumann KM184s that I used. So, yeah.
You use a pair of those.
So here we are. We're jumping right in. Yeah. So
we're there.
We're there. So, recording Test of Time was actually a long process for really no good reason other than being busy. Test of Time is a little bit of a play on the fact that this material's been around. Like, if you've seen me play, you've probably heard most of these tunes before. Some of them even have YouTube videos out and stuff like that. I just never got around to putting them on a CD or releasing them as in an album kind of context. So I finally started to get to it. In a way that I liked. Some of these tunes I've recorded several times, literally over the last 5 or 10 years. And I work closely with my good friend and duet partner, Doug Young. I started out recording basically most of the tunes on the album at his studio. And he's got a wonderful home recording studio. He's got amazing microphones. He's got Browners and Shops and everything. and it sounded great, but I didn't play it so great. So I was never really happy with what we did there. So I ended up setting myself up in my home studio, which is a corner of my garage, with a pair of Neumann KM184s and a little Focusrite audio interface and a MacBook. And that is literally how most of the album was recorded. It was me and a pair of Neumann KM184s and a Focusrite audio interface, nothing else. Um, and then Doug did his magic mixing and mastering it, which made a huge difference. But ultimately, that's how it was recorded. There are two tracks, the two 12-string cuts, for no reason other than one being a tune. Let's see, Tacoma, I recorded quite a while ago at Doug's house, and I was just really happy with the take of it, and we used it. And then Naima, which was the second to last tune I recorded, I just needed an extra set of ears in the studio to tell me that I wasn't going totally crazy while I was recording it. And so those two cuts were recorded at Doug's house, probably using his Browner microphones.
It's we like to geek out a little bit on the microphone
Oh,
stuff
yes.
because Eric's really got us going on.
Eric's really getting into it, hardcore. And it's interesting, I kind of see the KM184s as sort of a standard that a lot of great music has been recorded with. A lot of people find them a little bright for acoustic guitar. I've always liked them. My first album was recorded with them, and there's a lot of, Doug and I released the Duets album now almost 4 years ago, and that material was all recorded in Doug's studio, but we've released a bunch of stuff since then that's on all the streaming services. And all of that, my portion of it was recorded again with the KM184s. And so I kind of like, when it comes to microphones, and really guitars too, I think there is something about using something that's kind of a standard of some kind. And if you can't make it sound good with that, it's probably not the gear's fault. And that's kind of my take on it, and I'm happy with the way it ended up sounding. And Doug did a lot making it sound even better in mixing and mastering, so I have a big shout out to him for that.
It's I love the standard idea, because if you don't have it, you don't know where to start.
That's kind of it. So, the same kind of goes with my guitars that I used. I mean, I used an OM. We can go through these a little bit later. I used a Martin OM custom shop, a Loudon 010, a Taylor 12-string, and a National. And they're great guitars, and a lot of great music has been recorded with guitars like that. And I don't know, to me, it's kind of like, I'd rather find out that the problem is with me than with my gear, and I know it's not the gear.
I don't have that problem. I know that the gear is always good.
There you go. Well, that's because you have all these great Santa Cruz guitars. Yes. How many Santa Cruz guitars do you have, Tad?
Oh boy.
There's too high a probability that my wife is going to listen to this podcast. So
Okay, more than
we won't
two.
go into great detail.
Right. Okay. The exact number is unknown.
Yeah.
There is a case at my house though.
Okay.
And I'm not really sure if it's hide it or why it's here, but I'm really enjoying playing it. That's for
Excellent.
sure.
Excellent. Well, I was down at the shop a couple of months ago, getting a little preview of the Vault guitars that are probably just about done now. And it was great to catch up with Richard and Josh and Will down there, and take some photos and see those pretty amazing guitars. I think you guys did something with Richard on them, right?
I did Richard. We've done Richard a couple of times, but I went last Thursday and saw them.
Great. So are they finished? Are they?
Well, they were in the spray booth.
Okay.
And I was in there about 30 seconds and needed to leave. Really quickly.
Yeah. Well, when I saw them, I did a little thing for Peghead Nation on them. They were bodies and necks were looked like almost finished, but they hadn't had any lacquer on them, and yeah,
The
so
the
looking forward to
the
seeing those when they're done.
the tops, the Tunnel 13 top and the Alaskan Sitka top,
Yeah,
uh,
it's pretty
it just
spectacular.
exploded
Yeah,
when the stuff hit.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I did see one neck with the engraving and
Okay,
all that.
yeah,
So really excited to see
nice.
it. I'm Tad and I are going to go down to Nam this year, so
Good. Yeah, I'll be
we'll
there. Yeah,
yeah, everybody pretty much
yeah.
around. I think Tad's going more to go to Disneyland, but
I
which
see.
is probably a good choice.
Right.
Well,
Excellent.
so I have never been to Nam. This will be my
Oh,
first time going, which I'm
okay.
excited about doing. Um, but it's my wife that really loves Disneyland. I could
Okay.
actually avoid the place if
Yeah.
given the opportunity. However, my wife loves it, so I've
Good.
decided we're going to take
You're gonna
advantage
do
of
it,
this long drive and
right?
do it all up. And I'm looking forward to Nam. I'm looking forward to seeing these guitars in
Great.
particular.
Yeah. You're in for a
They'll
treat.
be exciting. So you're going to be there today? Are you going as Peghead
I'm
Nation
going,
or?
yeah, I'm going as Peghead Nation. I've been going to NAMM for 30 plus years. I haven't missed a winter show except for the COVID, the first COVID one. And I used to go to the summer show too. So I'm probably honing in on 40 plus NAMM shows or something like that. So yeah.
It's yeah.
Uh,
Richard describes experience of just the face to face,
right.
and we've had this kind of interesting conversation going on the forum the past couple of days about, well, this is over and blah
Yeah.
blah, and all this stuff is over, but they don't understand that face to face. I mean, I did so many trade shows and
Right.
New York every year,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, Halloween,
Yeah.
do it $500,000 to put on the show for the company.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, it's like, okay, we'll
Yeah.
go,
Well,
we're
the
in.
face to face is important, but the faces have to be there. So that will be the big. I think that's the big elephant in the room is how many people are going to be attending. Because last year was certainly a lot slower than it was pre-COVID. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see.
I see a lot of
Um,
friends down there, and it's always a good time.
yeah. Talk a little bit more about, I'm just going to say, you have a really tasty slide piece on your
Uh, n-
embryonic journey.
oh, on the Duo CD. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a couple of licks in there that are pretty advanced.
It's interesting. Well, keep going. See where you want to go with this. But I mean, basically, my slide playing, I've always kind of dabbled with slide a little bit. Um, and then it really sort of came to life when I got this guitar, um, which used to belong to Dale Miller. Did you guys know Dale Miller? Tat might
Only by
recognize.
reputation.
So Dale passed away 10 years ago now. He was a Berkeley-based blues fingerpicker. He was on the Kicking Mule record label back in the early 70s. And we probably met sometime in the mid 90s through Duck Baker and became good friends. And I had always admired this guitar of his, and when he passed away, I hosted a tribute show to him at the Freight and Salvage, and I basically told his widow, whenever you start thinking about selling some of Dale's guitars, let me help you. Don't just put them up on eBay or something like that. And about a year and a half later, Terry called me, and she said, I'm ready. And so I helped her find homes for a bunch of these guitars. And I basically said, okay, but let's find a way for me to have the tricone. And I ended up buying it sort of over time from her because it was right in between my acoustic guitar and Peghead Nation periods, and I had very little money. This is a very cool guitar that is not an old one, but it's a very early one from when National started making tricones again. Because they started out when they set up in San Luis Obispo, it was all single cones for about the first 10 years or so. And I think sometime in the late 90s, I think this is in 1999, I think about a year or two before that, they started making tricones again. And so I'm assuming that this guitar was probably built by Don Young and McGregor Gaines themselves for the most part, because it was such an early guitar. And it just really opened up. You don't need a National guitar, a National to play slide, but somehow having this just really opened it up for me. And I'm not a blues guitarist, but I sort of come into it from the kind of Martin Simpson school of playing these ballads and stuff with a slide. As a matter of fact, the slide I use most of the time is one of the Martin Simpson signature slides that Paul Humiller sold quite a few years ago, probably 20 years ago or so now. He's got a different kind of slide. And I usually play slide in either Orkney tuning, so C, G, D, G, C, D, or open C with a fourth string down to C2, so it'd be C, G, C, G, C, D. So I don't use the traditional kind of open D, open G slide tunings. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful sound. So Doug and I have done a few things with this guitar. Pretty much everything I've recorded with the slide's been on this guitar. So we did Embryonic Journey. That was a fun one to work out. Doug's basically playing the standard Yorma guitar part, and I figured out the second part to it. There's another tune of Doug's that we recorded with this. And then on the current album, I did Neil Gau's Lament for the Death of His Second Wife, which is a old Scottish tune that a lot of people play. I just kind of one day sat down and thought to myself, how would it be on the slide? And I think it came out really nice.
Beautiful. Yeah,
So,
it's wonderful stuff. There was some triplets and some things you did in Embryonic Journey that when I heard it, I'm a pretty big Sonny Landreth fan, and boy, you did a couple of those things, and I reached over and stopped it and played it again.
Good.
Okay,
well, it's funny, I love playing
it.
slide, and I kind of figured out what I think is I'm not super fluid in slide. I have a fairly limited sort of range that I can do, but I found a way to apply that limited range to a lot of different musical contexts. The things I have recorded with this, I'm quite happy with. So
it's a good story about how a special instrument can inspire a special kind of music.
Absolutely, this is a really. It's a great National style one. I've played quite a few of them since I've had this, and I think this is one of the better ones I've played. But also, it was my friend's guitar, and so I can't play it without thinking about Dale. So that's a really wonderful thing with this guitar, for sure.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that it's only on one cut on the new CD, but I'm glad it made it. Because it was almost, I recorded the tune twice. I recorded it on this, and I recorded it on baritone guitar, and I also really like the baritone. But Doug pretty much talked me into keeping it on the National. So there it is.
How heavy strings are you using on that?
I'm using a medium set, but I replaced the first one with a 15. But I'm tuned down to D, so it's not crazy. 15 would be pretty stiff if I'm in standard tuning, but down to D, it's really not that bad. And it just gives me a little bit extra resistance with the slide.
And that's I want to highlight that last statement for people listening to it. It might be kind of stiff with 15s on a regular guitar.
Well, it's only the first string. It's not like I'm going, 15 and then down to like a 70 or something like that. That would be a baritone set. But yeah.
There's a new set of baritone strings out from SCGC, and
Okay.
I got a preset of them or something like that. They're unbelievable.
Like new from the ones that they released a year or so ago?
No.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it up to this point.
Okay.
So if I'm a year behind,
Okay,
that's
I
okay.
think you are, because I demoed the strings. Actually, I borrowed Tad's two baritone guitars, Santa Cruz baritones, to demo the strings. And yeah, I agree, they're great. They're really nice.
I really like it. It's down to C,
Yeah.
easy.
Well, I tend to go down to B. I know Santa Cruz tends to go tune him to C, because I just demoed a nice Santa Cruz baritone guitar for Peghead Nation, and it got sent to me tuned C to C, which with a 27-inch scale makes sense. My baritone has a 27.5-inch scale, and so I go down to B. Um, and not only is it nice to go a little lower, but it does make transposing a little bit easier, because everything is just like you're in E to E moved over one set of strings. So it makes it a little bit simpler if you're playing with other people.
That's
I'm
interesting.
look-
I just have the Santa Cruzes, so I'm used to the 27-inch scale,
Right.
and
Yeah,
kind of
because
used to
if
C.
you tune B to B, then an A chord becomes an E chord, a D chord becomes an A chord, and so on. Whereas if you're C to C, things you have to map out the fingerboard a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But your positions, don't change if you're B to B. So
Yeah. Luckily, I only play the baritone by myself, so I
there you
just find
go.
the
You're
key
safe.
that I can sing in best and go for
Right.
that.
Good. Good. Yeah. So that's the story on this guitar, which is just super special to have, and I'm glad I found a way to use it in what I hope are musical ways.
So
Great.
what else are you doing these days? You've got the Peghead Nation, which I've got to imagine keeps you pretty busy.
Well, Peghead Nation is the main thing. That's that is my job,
Right.
and that's doing really well. Next year is going to be our 10th year, believe it or not.
Oh,
It's
Wow.
pretty
congratulations.
wild.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And we're up to almost 70 courses, and we've got a bunch of exciting ones that we're starting to work on next year. Um, and for those folks who aren't familiar with us, it's video courses, not just for guitar, but guitar, mandolin, banjo, fiddle, ukulele, dobro. Where we've got a couple of vocal courses now. We're adding some music theory courses, and yeah, it's going really well. I have two partners in it. It's myself and Dan Gable and Scott Nygaard. The three of us started the company, and it's just been super satisfying. It's really fun to work with world-class players who also really enjoy how to teach. I have to kind of pinch myself being in a room with these doing these sessions sometimes, because it is just really great, and I'm learning so much just from interacting with our instructors. So I'm the producer. I shoot most of the videos. There's a handful of courses that were shot on location somewhere else, but most of them I shoot. I do all the editing, and I also do all the gear coverage. So I do most of the instrument demos, and if I don't do them, I work with whoever does them, and I'll still edit them. And yeah, so it's going really great. We're about to move into a new studio in San Rafael, and that's going to be really great. And
Bigger,
what?
fancier, bigger,
Well,
fancier.
we had a wonderful studio, but something happened with the building that we're in, and everyone had to move out, and so we basically lost the space we had. But this space that we're moving in is actually it's larger, and so we may have some opportunities to do some new things in there, but we'll find out one thing at a time.
There you go. There
So
you
for
go.
the time being, I'm shooting a few things at home, and we've had some people come here and do a couple things, but we kind of made sure we had enough of a buffer to make it through these couple of months that we knew we'd be sort of in between studios.
Growth
So,
and change. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, the business is doing well. you know, we've done the video courses. We also do some live Zoom workshops. We've got a couple of those in the works that are starting. Actually, one starts in a couple of weeks. It's kind of a music theory and vocal workshop, and yeah, so a lot of stuff coming up.
Excellent.
And you're
Anything-
gigging. Go ahead.
Oh, is there anything special for the 10th anniversary? Got any plans?
Well, yes, but we don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
It's the
Then
actual
we won't talk about it.
the actual anniversary won't be till September, so we've got a little time to plan.
Okay.
Yes,
T-shirts at the least.
absolutely. Yes, we gotta have T-shirts. So
Coffee cups.
yeah,
Got
but if people want to come check it out and you know, go to the site, there's some promo codes for all the courses. People can check it out for a month for free, and definitely I would encourage people to come check it out.
Excellent.
I did Sharon Gilchrist's.
Oh yeah,
Just fantastic.
yeah. Well, she's one of our most popular teachers, and she you know, she's got several mandolin courses, and she's an example of just what I was talking about. She is so amazing as an instructor, and such an amazing player, and just has a great personality on screen, and really it's just been a really successful course, so it's great.
Yeah, fantastic. You are gigging like crazy.
Well, it came back. You know, looking back, I didn't play as much this year as I did, you know, pre-COVID, but it sort of has come back. But suddenly, just in the last couple of weeks, a bunch of really fun things are sort of getting on the calendar. So I'm really looking forward to. We've got a nice handful of things coming up in January, a couple of things in February. We're still kind of trying to push the duo with Doug Young a bit. So there's a lot of shows as a duo coming up, and you know, we bring a bunch of guitars and do the duo repertoire, and I always play a few solo tunes in there as well. Yeah, January is busy. For some reason, a bunch of things are happening in May, February, and March are starting to fill in. So yeah, very excited about that. Definitely missed playing out during the COVID years, and it was good to, you know, mostly be back this year, but hoping to do even more in 2024.
Well, we're lucky to see you because you're playing a lot around the San Francisco Bay Area. Are there any plans?
Well, I'm based here, so that, you know, I would like to play out of the Bay Area more, but it has to make financial sense. Basically, is what it comes down to. But certainly, if anyone sees this or listens to this and has some ideas for places elsewhere in the country or anywhere, please get in touch, because I'm more than willing and wanting to get out a bit more.
Nice.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, so Tad, yeah, I think you're aware we're doing this really nice house concert in Berkeley on January 20th, I think it is. So
I saw the posting on that. Yeah, that looks interesting.
we hope to see you there. So if people are interested, if people are in the Bay Area, which is mostly where I play, they can go to my website, tejagerkin.com, or fingerpickingguitar.com, because Teja Gerkin can be difficult to spell for people, I've learned. So either one of them has all the gigs listed, and be great to see some Santa Cruz coffee break folks.
There you go. That would be great. Yes.
Yeah.
So that covers your performing, your Peghead Nation.
Yep.
You've got CD coming out. What else is going on?
You know, well, I've got a kids getting ready for college, and so that will keep me quite occupied for the next few months, probably, as we wade through acceptance letters and financial aid, you know, details. But
yeah, and the weather will keep you from your beautiful bike rides. You always post wonderful pictures on your bike rides.
Some guys go out in the mud, but I'm not one of them. I find it a little too slippery. You know, I'm very injury averse, so I'm the guy who mountain bikes tan, but I get passed on the way up and the way down. So yeah. But yeah, I live here in Fairfax, and so the mountain bike trails are right outside my house, so I do get out quite often.
Wonderful.
I think the safety is a far better cue
Absolutely.
than
Slow is the
that.
way to go.
I'm going. It's faster now. Look at this.
Yeah.
I'm going really fast. Oh, I went too fast.
Don't need the thrill. Yeah, I just need the exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
So
get a 140-pound Great Dane puppy and
yeah,
walk them for an hour and a half a day.
yeah,
That'll
that would do it, right?
That will do it.
Yeah,
that does it. Yep, that does it. It keeps the exercise there.
yeah, yep.
Um,
I was going to ask, Teja, you've got the unique kind of perspective on guitar universe in terms of having access to and experience with so many of the new stuff that's coming out, with so many of the builders, with so many of the musicians, and so many of the issues involved in performing. Looking ahead to 2024 and beyond, what do you see as being the high points, the challenges of the acoustic guitar in what's coming up? Anything that you can kind of recognize that you tell people about to especially look into or beware of or take advantage of while you can? Or
Boy, that's a tough one.
yeah.
I I think the guitarists themselves have just reached this level of maturity and dependability to where they've never been better new guitarists than they are now. I think I think that's really the case. So I don't really know what to say about like new gear, new instruments coming up. I think the big story that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is sort of the passing of the torch of so many makers who are starting to get older. We've seen it with some companies, Bill Collings passing and Collings thriving past that. We've seen it with Taylor Guitars with Andy Powers taking over. We're seeing it with companies like Luthier's Mercantile shutting down and sort of figuring out new ways. So I think there's going to be a lot of sort of transitioning into new leaderships in a lot of different companies and sort of enterprises around our universe in the next few years. And I think that's really going to be the big thing to watch and see.
Yeah, little background for anybody who doesn't know that Luthier's Mercantile has been a very major supplier of guitar parts and accessories and woods and such in Northern California.
They happen to be based here in they were in Sonoma County.
And it was partially because there were so many Luthiers in this area, and that's where the Healdsburg Guitar Festival and everything else. So that is a huge change right there.
Absolutely.
I've often wondered, there seem to be so many brilliant young luthiers coming up in the world.
Absolutely.
And part of the problem they're having is with marketing. There's some good guitar stores left around, but it's a very changing market. I guess that's more where I was hoping you might have more kind of background and knowledge.
I wish I had some answers to that. I think you're right. The guitar stores themselves are changing. I don't actually know whether there are fewer around. I mean, certainly here in the Bay Area, all the major stores that have been around as long as I've been around here are still here and are thriving. I'm thinking of Griffin, Schomburg's, Tall Toad up in Petaluma. Guitar Solo is still in San Francisco. So strangely, in a way, some of the more specialized stores in the Bay Area are still around, whereas some of the more general guitar stores, like I'm thinking like Haight-Ashbury Music, which was really big for many years, is no more, and there really isn't anything like that. Real Guitars is still in San Francisco, but for example, Black Market Music, which was a major thing when I lived in San Francisco in the 90s and early 2000s, is no more. So I don't know. We're seeing some of these sort of custom guitar boutiques, like around here. Certainly, Mighty Fine Guitars, Stevie Coil's shop. We have Guitar Gallery in Nashville. Of course, we have Paul Humiller's Dream Guitars, based out of North Carolina, but really primarily being an online business. So, in some ways, it is easier to find these guitars than it ever has been, because there are places that will stock several of them. But we've kind of lost the major guitar festivals, the Healdsburg Guitar Festival, the Santa Barbara Guitar Festival, all these different places. I think the La Conner Festival, and I guess the Artisan Festival in Pennsylvania are still around, but they do seem to operate on a somewhat smaller scale than, sort of like, Healdsburg was really the big magnet where everybody got together. And the Woodstock show was the last Woodstock show this past year, so we don't really know whether anything is going to replace that. I'm kind of watching the Archtop Guitar Festival in Colorado that Peter Hendrickson's putting together. Which seems to be a great festival, but it really is focused on arch tops and jazz guitar right now. So definitely the market is changing. There's certainly a lot more competition. There's a lot more luthiers out there.
Right.
At the same time, we're seeing some of the older builders retiring, and so you would think that that would create some openings for people to take those places.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few years.
Yeah.
That's
So
is that
that's kind of it. I mean, is the market saturated? People keep saying that the market is saturated, but I don't know. I think people are always going to be buying guitars. I mean, a lot of us have the disease pretty good.
yes, we do. Maybe it's an area that we can talk Peghead Nation into investigating a little more.
Investigative journalism into the buying habits of people. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more about just sponsoring a festival.
That is a big can of worms. I would love to be involved with a festival. I think it would be super fun. Doing it in the Bay Area is really hard because everything is so expensive. And yet there are so many builders here. I would love to help someone put something like that on. Let's put it like that. But I don't think I'm ready to sign the dotted line.
Yeah, it's I've done a few festivals, and it's 6 months worth of work.
Yeah.
Pretty
well,
easy.
we didn't mention
every
the
day.
we didn't mention the Fretboard Summit, of course, which by
Right.
all accounts has been a fantastic event. I mean, I went to the first couple when Jason had them out here on the West Coast, and they were wonderful.
They were, yes.
I have a fantasy of maybe making it out to Chicago this summer, even though it'll probably be right around the time that we're getting my daughter ready for college. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but. So that, and I think what I really like about the Fretboard Summit is that there is an emphasis on not just exhibiting the guitars, but on the playing as well. And actually, I think that personally, I think that has been kind of missing from some of the sort of guitar festivals, is that to me, it's all about the playing. And, I like looking at great guitars and playing guitars as much as anybody, but I think the concerts and the workshops have to support that.
I think the Old Town School of Folk Music is a great partner for that. It's
Absolutely.
it's a great building, and it's got a lot
I've
of
never
history.
been, but I've heard wonderful things about the Old Town School for decades. So yeah, it's got to be great.
Saw Doc Watson there in 1967.
See, there you go.
I mean,
so that's
just,
how far back they go. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, just we're old. You're young, so we'll give
Thank
you
you.
that.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I don't know what the future holds in the lutherie world or the guitar world in general. But the fact of the matter is, guitars have never been better than they are now.
Yeah. Well, and access to music and the access to instruction through like Peghead Nation
Absolutely,
is really wonderful
it's
too.
never easier than it has ever been to find material, whether it's through people like us, or there's other people who do similar things, or even just being able to go to Spotify or Apple Music and find any song that you might want to learn, and there it is. It's you don't have to wait until the next morning when you can go to a record store to try to find that record, right?
Yeah.
It's really fantastic in terms of access.
Yeah,
If you can
well, I
find a record
remember
store.
back. I can remember back to the days when somebody would mention some song that you'd never heard of, and you'd have to find somebody who actually had the 78 and could
Absolutely.
wind up their
Yeah.
Victrola to
Yeah.
get a chance to hear it. So,
Yeah. 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 I do find the one downside to all of this, I think, is that where even when I was coming up, starting to get into fingerstyle guitar 25, 30 years ago, there really was no substitute for going out to see people play this stuff, and there still isn't a substitute for that. But like, when I've had students, I say, well, what was the last fingerstyle guitar show you saw? And there is, I think it is, there's less of an emphasis to going out to actually see people do this stuff, because you also have access on it on YouTube. It's no longer the only way to see this stuff, and so I think it hurts attendance at shows for sure, but I also think there is a different level of experience. Um, I've been thinking about. Do you guys know about who Chris Proctor is?
Know the name?
the
Chris
name's
Proctor is a great fingerstyle guitarist who was really active in the 90s. He won Winfield in 84, I think, and then he did all these Taylor guitar clinics for a good decade or so. And I first heard him play probably around 1991, 92, something like that. I was working up at Tall Toad Music in Petaluma, and he came, and he was the first guy I ever saw who was a really good fingerstyle guitarist who I could see up close and ask questions to. And as a result, he would come through once or twice a year doing these things, and over time we became friends. And he is a huge influence on my playing because of that experience of realizing that I could have a personal relationship with someone who I'm really looking up to as an artist. And you can't do that through YouTube, or even Peghead Nation for that matter. There's something about going out repeatedly, seeing someone, making a connection with an artist, and learning through that way. Maybe later I studied with my sort of the two local fingerstyle guitarists who I consider to be mentors are Peppino D'Agostino and Doug Baker, both of whom I first started to go see in concert, and then struck up a friendship and started taking lessons with for several years, really, with both of them. And those are really experiences that I don't think they can be replaced by any other kind of way. And it really is sort of, you start following someone around a little bit, and you go see their shows, and you go to the shows that they tell you to go to, that sort of thing. I mean, literally, I found out, I had known about Doug Baker previously, but it was Peppino who told me, oh, Duck's moving back to the Bay Area from Virginia, and when he's here, you should take some lessons with him. So it was that kind of a word of mouth kind of a thing. That was really great, and I feel really fortunate to have had that.
Well, and the other part of that is when you see people perform live, you start to get a better sense of why you're learning how to play the instrument and how to react with an audience, and like
Absolutely.
seeing somebody very calmly like break a string and then interact with the audience while they fix their guitar, or how they respond when something's a little out of tune, or
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and going back a little bit further than that, really my first experience of that, when I was in college, I went to see John Renbourn. This would have been like 1988 or 89. And it was at the Old Freight, well, the Middle Period Freight, for those of us in the Bay Area long enough. And I wrote about this when I wrote an obituary for John. But I had a friend in college, my friend Matt Greenhill, who at the time, through his father, Mitch Greenhill, was John's manager in the States. And so he took me to see him at the Freight. And I'd known about John. My dad was a big Pentangle fan, and already then I was kind of very familiar with John's work. And being at the Freight and being able to not only see someone perform up close who was a hero of mine, but to be able to go backstage and shake his hand was just really a profound. It really changed sort of the trajectory of everything for me, because this kind of, when you're a kid and you see, maybe you've been to a big stadium type show or something like that, you're so disconnected, but discovering that immediacy and intimacy of basically folk music or roots music, it really had a profound impact. And again, John and I stayed in touch, and 10 years later I opened up for him on that same stage. And
Wow.
Just a lot of kind of influences like that. And in some ways it even ties into this album, because I don't think of playing what some folks have called a fairly eclectic bunch of tunes as that, really. It's just what I do. I write some tunes. I might learn a jazz standard. I might play a couple of Celtic tunes. I might play a classical tune, all of which are on this CD. And it's just what I do. But it seems like there's fewer people who sort of mix the music that they play up like that, which to me sort of came out of the John Renbourn, Bert Jansch kind of school of playing. Studying with Duck certainly was the same kind of thing, where there's really no real separation of whether you're playing a fiddle tune or you're playing a monk tune or something like that. It all becomes part of what you do on the guitar.
There you go. So maybe a Taylor Swift tune on the next CD?
Well, there's a lot of Taylor Swift at my house because I have a teenage daughter, so you never know. And I will say, I don't know if you guys are hip to Cat Grooves. Do you know her? She's a great young fingerstyle player out of Davis, and I'm super excited because just a couple of days ago, Doug and I are going to do a double bill with her, and she has a just killer sort of modern fingerstyle version of a Taylor Swift tune that she does, and it's really great. So it can all be done. It's all music, and I think it can all be a good idea.
Excellent. Well, we'll make sure that there are links to everything we've talked about.
Yes, you should check her out. Yeah,
including a link to her. Yes, absolutely. That sounds great. It's anything new is worth looking into.
Absolutely.
Her name is Cat Groves.
Cat Kat, and it's not her real last name, but she goes by Grooves, Gruvs. I think her website is catgrooves.com. You can Google her. I'll send you a link.
We'll look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's exciting to see some younger players coming through the Bay Area. There's Janet Noguera is a wonderful young fingerstyle player starting out and getting some recognition and touring a bit and stuff like that. So I guess that's the other kind of thing to respond to your earlier question, is there's always great young artists coming up, and that's really fun to watch.
Well, that's another one of the great reasons to try and get more festivals or guitar shows happening, because the two people I've seen at guitar shows that struck me the strongest is the first Fretboard Journal Summit, getting to see David Crosby,
right,
and talk to him up close was
right,
just life altering to me. And then the second one is the second Fretboard Journal Summit, where I got to hear Molly Tuttle for the first time.
She's phenomenal.
Which was mind-boggling to hear her play the first time.
She's something else. It's really
she really is. So anyway, well, great. Mr. Newman, do you have anything more to go over or to talk about, or
no, I'm having a good time learning.
Yeah. You want to briefly learn about these other guitars that I used, or
well, we could.
Up to you.
I see a custom shop Martin in the back.
So this is sort of my main steel string guitar. It's a custom custom shop Martin OM that Dick Boak helped me put together in 2005. Adirondack, Indian Rosewood. It's essentially a Schoenberg soloist built by Martin. It's got the white string spacing at the saddle, 1 3/4 inch neck, and cutaway, no fingerboard inlay. It's sort of a style 21 kind of a idea behind it. I like to say if Martin had built a style 21 OM with a cutaway in 1930, this is probably what it would have looked like. So that's one. And then my other main steel string is this 1999 Loudon 010, and that's cedar and mahogany. And I think on the album that kind of evenly split. I might have used the Loudon on one more tune than the Martin. This guitar sounds amazing to record, and it's super powerful playing acoustically. We already talked about the National. The two 12-string cuts were done on this Taylor 355, which is from 2000. And again, I like guitars without fingerboard inlay, so I had them make a plain fingerboard on this. It does have dots on the side, of course. And it pretty much is always tuned to DADGAD. Except right now it's tuned to Open D. So so yeah, those are the guitars. And there's really I've used all these guitars before. I've owned most of these guitars for a long time, so there's really no new guitars on this.
I've just had a real good time.
Excellent. Well, good.
You know, I really I think that your combined knowledge is so vast, and your connections are just so amazing. The John Renbourn story, it's cool when you meet a hero, and then you get a chance to then you get a chance to stand in front of them and say, okay, this is what I bring.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And I did get to meet John a few more times after that. I interviewed him for acoustic guitar, and that was fantastic. I have a note he sent me one of his last CDs that he put out, and he hand wrote it and signed it, and it's one of my treasured things. I have it stashed away in my files because if I have to pick one guitarist, it would be John for me to look up to. So
beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So,
well, we will link everybody
up. Let me know if you have any questions to follow up with, and I'll supply the answers if I can.
We really appreciate it.
And then I hope to see you guys at NAMM, and maybe we can we can grab Eric Sky and hang out a bit.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
Yeah,
have some food one night. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's coming down. I think he told me he booked his flight. So yeah.
Yeah, I think him. It's actually, there's a pretty interesting contingent of SCGC players. Excellent. Yeah, pretty interesting. Brandon Lee Adams, who has started this show for PBS called The Life of a Musician.
Oh yeah,
it's on Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge
PBS. Nominated for an Emmy last year. Yep. Season two looks even better than season one. Brandon's going to be there. I don't know if Lisa Liu is going to be there. I know we'll see James Nash, right? And, all these other folks. So it looks like it's going to be a really good time. And excellent. January 1, when this comes out.
Yep.
So does Test of Time.
There we go. Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we thank you. All and have a great afternoon.
All right. You guys too.
Yes.
We'll talk soon.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.